The buhag are female witches in the lore of the Gullah African people of South Carolina. Their belief in the buhags has even spread out into other areas of the South. The buhag is believed to remove all of the skin off of her own body with her hands and be exposed as a morbidly raw bloody figure with veins popping out all over her body. The buhags have even been described sometimes as having glowing eyes. After the buhags have peeled off all of their skin, they then leave it behind and go out of their home at night in search of prey. Once inside their house, they behave very similar to a vampire by sucking out their victim's breath and life force while they are sleeping in bed, putting them in a trance-like state where they are dreaming. If they break out of the trance early on, the buhag will then steal the victim's skin and use that skin to fully shapeshift into the form of the victim, and as a result, leaving the victim in a horrible state. Other African American cultures believe that the buhags can remove all their skin and transform their skinless bodies into other animals and night birds, like owls and bats. After their transformation, they then end up engaging in nighttime attacks on sleeping people by sucking out their breath and energy, or their blood. If the buhag is successful in sucking out the breath and energy without disturbing the victim, then that victim will wake up feeling very tired after the nighttime assault. The ways that someone can protect themselves from the attacks of the buhag is to paint the doors and windows of the house with a light blue color to prevent the buhag from coming in. If the creature touched the painted doors and windows, then they would feel a considerable amount of pain. Another way to protect yourself from the buhag is to come across her skin that she left behind and put salt and pepper on it. When she comes back to put all of her skin back on, she would then burn. It is even believed that the buhags would travel around the South Carolina swamps on small flat-bottomed boats so that they can more easily see what was going on around them. Small lanterns were sometimes attached to the ends of these boats to guide them through the swamps at night, and they sometimes appeared like moving groups of fireflies drifting among the overhanging trees. There are a number of tales concerning the buhags riding boats in swampy areas. One tale concerns an individual named Bobby P., who lived with his father, named Pa, in a cabin deep in the swamps. Bobby was looking to find a woman to be in his life. One day, at a grocery store, he came across an old woman who came out of the deep marshes in a little flat-bottomed boat from which she sold milk and eggs. They ended up talking, and she discovered that Bobby was single, so she hooked him up with her granddaughter, and they then ended up going out a couple of times, and then from there they got married. On a couple of days, he would suddenly get very tired as she engaged in strange behavior that had him going to his dad to talk about it. His father was concerned because he has heard of things that live deep in the swamps that had the appearance of humans but were not. They were like vampires in a way. Bobby ended up visiting a conjure woman to discuss all the things happening, and she told him that his wife is a buhag who is drugging him and that his life is in danger. She ended up giving him a herb to counteract the effects of the drug. She also told him to pretend to be asleep and to see what happens. Bobby did what she told him and took the herb, which allowed him to eat his wife's food without feeling drowsy. One night he pretended to be asleep and watched his wife sneak up into the attic that had a large spinning wheel. He ended up following her and peered through a crack in the door. To his absolute horror, he witnessed something that's like out of a Hellraiser movie. He saw his beautiful wife sit down at the wheel and spin off her skin, leaving only a creature of red muscle and veins, completely bald and with very sharp teeth. As he watched, she left through the window. The next day, he told the conjure woman all of this, and she told him that the buhag will end up turning on him and drink his blood and eat his flesh. To defeat the creature, he would use blue paint around every window and door of his home. Then, to get the buhag's discarded skin that was left behind and fill it with salt and pepper. Once this creature came back and put her skin on, she would then burn from the inside out. Then Bobby pretended to be asleep again and saw her do the same thing as before. When she left, he painted all the doors and windows. The Boo Hag then returned as the dawn was touching the sky. Her mouth was covered with blood that she was drinking from sleeping folks out in the swamp. As soon as she touched the window, she gave out a terrible scream as the blue paint turned her away. She then started to beat on the glass with her skinless hands, trying to find a way in. She then was looking at each window and door to find a chink through which she could enter. At last she found a tiny piece of window ledge that Bobby had neglected to paint, and she began to squeeze herself through very painfully, with her skinless form being torn on the rough edges of the wood. He heard her fall to the ground. Outside daylight was coming, and the conjure lady had told him that the creature had to get back into its skin before the sun was fully up. The Boo Hag ended up running up into the attic of the house and tried to put on her human skin, but the salt and pepper that was put on it ended up burning her flesh. By now the sun was already up, and as she ran at the house towards the swamp, she exploded in gore. She was no more. Bobby then moved on and never married again. But each night he would stand on his front porch and watch lights come and go deep in the swamps, and he knew that the Boo Hags were moving about in their flat-bottomed swamp boats, each with a lantern on its end. When we hear that the Boo Hag does not like the sun, where did such a belief originate from? The origin may be of a disorder known as porphyria. There are two categories of porphyria. One is acute porphyria, which affects the nervous system of the individual. The other is cutaneous porphyria, which mainly affects the skin. The symptoms of acute porphyria are severe abdominal pain, pain in your chest, legs, or back, muscle pain, tingling, numbness, weakness, or paralysis, red or brown urine, mental changes such as hallucinations, disorientation, or paranoia, breathing problems, seizures, and so on. Now, to bring up cutaneous porphyria. If you have this skin disorder and are exposed to the sun, then the symptoms of this disorder as a result of sun exposure are sensitivity to the sun and sometimes artificial light causing burning pain, sudden painful skin redness and swelling, blisters on exposed skin, usually the hands, arms, and face, fragile thin skin with changes in skin color, and red or brown urine. There are some forms of porphyria that have both of the nervous system symptoms and skin symptoms together. Either way, all of the different types of porphyrias out there could have led to the belief in someone being a Boo Hag or even the victim of the Boo Hag. Another explanation that I think led to the belief in the Boo Hag is drugs. As was just mentioned in the tale that I brought up of Bobby being drugged by the Boo Hag, sounds very similar to a short bio that I did on the Skinwalkers using psychedelic drugs. Could the Boo Hag have been just a distorted view of what could have been something similar to the Skinwalker? The Boo Hag, as I documented, is even connected to flat chips that have lanterns on them, that people assumed were fireflies roaming around swamps. Could this be related to ball lightning? The answer appears to be yes, in some cases. Ball lightning is even sighted around swamps, and in some cases maybe even cause hallucinations in some people. So all of these different explanations, I believe, gradually throughout time, led to the birth of the Boo Hag.